Hello everyone, this is the host. It's probably not a good idea to sit and listen to ghost stories late at night. But then again, when is it ever a good idea? And I'm sure these stories are just superstitious nonsense, right? Well, here goes. These are terrifying tales of the supernatural that were never meant for your ears. Secrets, best left buried or forgotten. Secrets which shouldn't even be remembered but are whispered anyway because some things are just too horrible to ever forget. They're the kind of things people warn you about if you stay out past midnight when the world is quiet. The bravest souls who dare defy the clock will hear the whispers in the dark, the echoes of things best left undisturbed. Some say the dead don't rest easy. Some say they never even sleep. And what happens after midnight is none of our business. That's when the veil is thinnest, when the barriers between worlds are weakest, and we most resemble the living. And sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes we want to sleep by then. So here's another warning. If you hear these stories in the dead of night, and the door to your bedroom suddenly creaks open, don't answer. It might seem obvious, but just in case anything gets through, do not answer the last knock. Midnight is the witching hour. That's not up for debate. But why? Why is it that time? Is it simply because the clock strikes because we choose it to be? Or is there more to it than meets the eye? Perhaps it is because midnight is the point in the day when we come closest to the eternal darkness. It's the edge of our perception, the darkest part of the day. It's no wonder that so many scary stories happen at this precise moment. Perhaps it's when the spirits of the dead feel most alive. Whatever the reason, whatever lurks in the darkness, let's hope it doesn't find its way into our reality. Let's hope it doesn't make its presence felt, because some secrets are better off being buried. Some doors are better off being left locked. Some things are best forgotten and left to the dead. And yet somehow this story survived. The year was 1913 and the location, Blythe Bridge, Staffordshire, England. It was a regular town with a regular train station until one fateful night when a special train pulled in at exactly 12 o'clock. A train no one knew was coming and no one had requested. What could it possibly be doing there? And more importantly, where did it go? It came in from the direction of Newcastle under Lyme and disappeared without a trace. A passenger was seen running back toward the engine as soon as it stopped, but he vanished along with the train. When the line was checked for any sign of damage or obstruction, it was clear. All trains traveling the route that night reported nothing unusual. Yet somehow this one made it to Blythe Bridge and disappeared. People saw it, but they didn't know what to do with that information. It took several years before the story was leaked outside the town. And since then, strange things have happened. There have been reports of footsteps on the abandoned platform and the faint sound of a train whistle in the distance. Some say if you stand on the tracks and listen closely, you can hear the echo of a passenger running to catch the train and the sound of the engine starting up once more, and the rhythmic clackety-clack of the wheels disappearing into the night. Some say if you listen very hard, you can still hear the last knock before it vanishes. It's amazing how many urban legends started that way. Something happened, something weird and inexplicable. Then no one talked about it for decades. Then finally someone shared their story, and now we won't rest easy knowing about it. What's the worst part? The story seems to be true. The minutes leading up to midnight are filled with possibility, the chance to change everything, to alter the course of fate, to fix mistakes, to redo moments, to undo tragedies. It must be tempting to stay up for that. Surely it can't hurt, right? Well, it depends. It depends whether you're prepared for what comes next. Let me ask you, would you risk it? Would you dare stay up just to find out? The following account was taken down word for word from an old blog. It was posted with the title Locked Room in Hospital at Midnight. The author wishes to remain anonymous. Take from that what you will. I worked night shift as a healthcare assistant on a surgical ward. We had a patient who died and was kept overnight before his family came to collect him in the morning. He was an elderly man who had been in a serious car accident and sustained massive head trauma. He was kept alive artificially, but he was brain dead. At midnight, I went to check on him. His relatives were downstairs waiting to take his body away. I lifted the bedclothes to expose the body so they could see him when they came up. As I turned the bedclothes over, the curtains suddenly blew inwards and bang, the door slammed shut. I stood there shocked. The door had been propped open. I quickly shrugged it off and carried on with my round. I finished dressing the patient and left the room. 5 minutes later, I heard bang, 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 bang. I thought someone was trying to break in. I told my supervisor, who said it must have been the wind. She went with me to investigate. but obviously it wasn't the wind. We opened the door and went in. Nothing. We searched the room and found nothing. We checked all the windows and the door and found them all securely locked. We called maintenance to check the locks, but they were fine. The door wouldn't open from the inside. We asked the relatives if they wanted to see him again before he was taken away, but they refused. After discussing it, my supervisor and I decided to leave the door open until morning. At 7 a.m., the night shift ended and the day shift started. The new healthcare assistant came on duty and went into the room. Bang, bang. She screamed and ran out of the room. We all rushed to see what had happened. She was standing in the doorway shaking. She said she had gone in to check on the patient and the door had slammed shut behind her. I went to check and the lock was broken. It looked like someone had tried to force it open. After I calmed the new staff member down, I asked if anyone wanted to go in the room. No one volunteered, so my supervisor went in to check on the patient. Everything was fine. It was obvious that the lock had been broken in the night, but nobody had entered the room. At least that's what we assumed. Later that morning, I was taking a blood sample from the patient. When a nurse came running into the room, she was distressed and out of breath. She told me that someone had just come running down the corridor in a white coat and had run into the bathroom. I thought nothing of it and continued taking the blood. The nurse returned to see if I had seen the doctor. I said I hadn't. She then noticed the door to the bathroom was closed and she slowly opened it. We both screamed. The doctor was hanging in the bathroom, dead. She had taken her own life. Strangely, the doctor had not been on duty the previous night. The new healthcare assistant had only just started that day, and the nurse had been off the night before. And yet all three of us had seen the same ghost. If you think that sounds frightening, you should hear this one. It's a bit longer, but it really pulls you in. Let's see if we can shed some light on this tale. In 1984, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were hired to examine a house in Somers, Connecticut. The home was supposedly haunted, but the owners claimed they weren't having any problems. The Warrens believed the house was clear of ghosts, but upon leaving, they encountered a hitchhiking spirit who refused to let them go. Lorraine Warren wrote, "While driving along a lonely road, we slowed down to look for our street. Suddenly, a woman in a long flowing nightgown stepped out in front of our car. I slammed on the brakes. Her face was pale and drawn, her hair wild and her eyes were large and black and terrifying. She was a spectre. They stopped and the ghost vanished. They turned the car around and returned home, but the ghost followed them. Then they heard a knock on the door. It was the ghost of the woman in the nightgown. She said she wanted to speak with them. Once inside, the Warrens identified her as the former owner of the house, Helen Acton. Helen revealed that she'd been killed in the home by her husband. She said she was restless because he had never been punished. Other times, however, they want to share a warning, a secret from the past, a lesson from beyond the grave. It's a folktale, a legend from the past, and to tell it properly, I'll need to reach back into history. A new family moved into the manor house on the outskirts of town, and with them came strange rituals, ominous ceremonies held every night at precisely midnight. In hindsight, my mother believes the house was built on an ancient burial ground, and the children were the restless spirits of those laid to rest. So there you go. 3 terrifying tales to keep you company past midnight. If you enjoyed this adventure into the dark, join me again next time when I continue to spin my tales of terror. But until then, remember, never answer the last knock.